Trump released a new statement through his PAC, his Political Action Committee, and shockingly, for I think the first time, he was right on the Russian invasion into Ukraine. This is definitely not something that we're used to with Trump. Usually he goes out of his way to defend Putin regardless of what he does. But in his statement, he writes, "It doesn't make sense that Russia and Ukraine aren't sitting down and working out some kind of agreement. If they don't do it soon, there will be nothing left but death, destruction, and carnage. This is a war that never should have happened, but it did. The solution can never be as good as it would have been before the shooting started, but there is a solution and it should be figured out now, not later, when everyone will be dead." So look, there's nothing objectionable in that statement. That's why it caught my attention. And look, credit where credit is due. When he's right, we'll give him credit for it. I don't know what motivated him putting out a statement like this, considering he's been so friendly to Putin. In fact, even after the invasion, he referred to Putin as a genius, said he was very smart for doing this. So maybe he's thinking about how unpopular those positions are, even among the right wing, and he's considering how those positions could hurt him in 2024. I don't know, that might be one of his motivations. But there's another part to this that I thought was interesting, because while for the first time, he seems to have a take that makes sense. Doesn't matter. The majority of Americans actually think he's better suited to lead on this issue as opposed to Joe Biden, who I think has actually handled it pretty well. He's been measured. He hasn't, sent troops on the ground, which would be a disaster. But nonetheless, the data from a Harris X poll shared exclusively with Newsweek concludes that while 42% of voters say that Trump's policies are more to blame about the Russian invasion of Ukraine, 58% blame Biden.
That makes no sense.
No sense at all. The poll results largely break down along party lines. Among independents, 66% blame Biden and 34% blame Trump.
Okay, so there's a lot to say there. So first of all, why is Donald Trump saying something reasonable? Well, the reason he's put out that statement is because he has to pretend that he's a tough guy, that if he was in office, Russia would have never invaded because they would have been so scared of him. Scared of him doing what? Starting a terrible, disastrous, probably nuclear war, right? But he also has an anti-war position that his base loves and some in the left love. So how is he gonna square that? If you actually ask him about it, he'll go, right? So he puts out this statement to go, oh yeah, I would have just found a way to get them to do a deal because I'm out of the deal. I would have gotten a deal, okay? Now, why would anybody believe Trump that he would have handled this better when he handled everything like a lunatic when he was in office? So I get the right wing, they like that stuff. They're like, oh yeah, we don't like war, but it would have been great to nuke them. What? Okay, it doesn't matter. Don't ever try to talk to them. But when it comes to the independents, that number is real. That means they actually tricked independents into thinking that Trump would handle this better than Biden. Okay, so that is very dangerous because that means in an election, they're likely to side with Trump instead of Biden or whoever the Democratic nominee is. So that's where we get to Democratic incompetence. So look, Joe Biden has been miserable on domestic policy. He's lie after lie. Oh, I'm going to relieve student debt. It's just flat out lied about it. So I'm no fan of Joe Biden. Anyone who watches the show knows I lied into Biden all the time, and I just did right there. But he has handled Ukraine well. You have to be fair. He did not get us into a disastrous war, but he has hurt Russia so that the Ukrainians have a chance. And he did it with economic sanctions that actually got to the oligarchs and caused them pain, and got to Putin and caused them pain. He has handled it really well. Yet he's sitting there at a 34% approval on this issue, vis-a-vis Trump with independence. Well, that's because they can't message their way out of a wet paper bag. They're just so incompetent.
There's that. I think you're right about that because look, Trump and the right wing repeated over and over again, and repetition works, that Trump is the tough guy, he's the strong man, he would have handled this better. It doesn't even need any evidence to back it up. He just repeated over and over again, and then people just start believing it. It's kind of insane how easily that works. But also, Biden is the president right now, and the invasion happened under his watch. So naturally, people are gonna blame him for it, even though he has absolutely no way of controlling Putin and preventing him from doing this invasion. Putin was already dealing with Russian sanctions and all of that. There are now more sanctions. I wish they were a little more aggressive, especially pertaining to the fossil fuels and all of that. But European countries rely on fossil fuels coming from Russia. But anyway, putting all of that aside, I think we have to take into account that people think about politics in a very simplistic way oftentimes. And that's why the poll resulted with what we see.
The premise of the question is absurd to begin with. So who is more responsible? I guess I would say Trump, because he told Zelensky, I'm not going to help you with the Russians and missiles and defense unless you give me some made up nonsense about Hunter Biden, right?
Yeah, he withheld the military funding.
Yeah, so Trump is more responsible than Biden, but neither one of them are responsible. Putin's responsible. So it's kind of a weird question. And look, you can see with your own eyes, we're fair. Is it Trump's fault that the war began? No, he didn't help any, and he hurt around the edges, but it's Putin's fault. Trump didn't make him invade Ukraine. That's absurd, right? So, but the number one problem I have here is Biden is getting clobbered in every poll, whether it's economic, foreign policy, you name it. And he thinks he's winning. I mean, and the Democrats, they're just totally clueless. And they think, oh no, everything's gonna be okay. Everything is not going to be okay. If Donald Trump becomes the president again, we know for a fact he's not gonna relinquish the position. You saw it with your own eyes last time. He started a goddamn riot and had fake electors ready to overthrow our democracy. He's seriously considered martial law. He's not gonna ever leave office. And they keep thinking, oh no, it's the Titanic can't sink. America is so strong, America can't sink. Well, no, we're on the edge of having a fascist win the presidency again. And the Democrats are whistling past the graveyard. Just couldn't care less, not fighting back, totally and utterly impotent.